Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your bell work for the day. Margot records the relationship between the amounts of raisins and the peanuts she mixes to create different batches of her trail mix. You have 5 batches, A, B, C, D, and E. It provides you the ounces of raisins and the cup of peanuts. Now, part A is a pretty much straightforward question. It tells you to choose the ordered pair that has a y coordinate. That is the constant of proportionality for the relationship. Now, if we go back and remember from our first few lessons, the constant of proportionality is the same as the unit rate. Now, this makes things a lot easier for us because the unit rate always has an x value equal to 1. So because we know the x value has to equal 1, we just need to figure out which one of these is x and y. Now, if you remember, in a horizontal table, the top value is x, the bottom value is y. So that means the only batch that could be the constant proportionality is A. So that means A is our answer, 1 and 1 in 25/100. Now, part B asks us, based on the proportional relationship, 8 ounces of raisins requires how many cups of peanuts? Well, let's go ahead and figure that out. Now, remember, this is a proportional relationship, so that means we're setting up 2 ratios equal to each other. Now, I'm going to use batch D because there are no decimals in batch D. These are just whole numbers. So I got 4 ounces of raisins to 5 cups of peanuts, and that has to equal 8 ounces of raisins to X number of cups of peanuts. Now, remember, whatever I write on the top of one ratio has to be written on the top of the second ratio. Since I put ounces of raisins, it has to be ounces of raisins in the second ratio. Do not forget that. Now, this is just a cross multiply and divide problem. 4 times x is 4x. 5 times 8 is going to be 40. Now, what number times 4 gives me 40? Correct. It's going to be 10. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our assignment today. All right, so opening exercise. Solve each problem, leaving your answers in standard form. So in other words, it just wants us to show our steps and give us a final answer. All right, Terry weighs 40 kilograms. Janice weighs 2/3 kilograms less than Terry. What is their combined weight? All right, so we've got Terry. That's her weight. Janice is Terry's weight minus 2 3/4 kilograms. So now I need to find out what Janice's weight is. Well, Terry weighs 40 pounds, or 40 kilograms, and I'm going to add that to Janice's weight, which is 40 kilograms minus 2 3/4 kilograms. All right, well, 40 minus 2 3/4. Well, I know 40 minus 2 is 38. 38 minus 3/4 has got to be 37 1/4. So that's 37 1/4 pounds plus Terry's weight at 40 gives me a combined weight of 77 1/4 pounds. All right, we're going to change our color and line here real quick. All right, part B, we've got 2 2/3 minus 1 1/2 minus 4/5. We have 3 fractions with 3 different denominators. We have to use the least common multiple to determine the common denominators. Now, before we do all that, remember, you cannot do this if you have mixed numbers. We need to convert these to improper fractions. So 2 2/3 becomes 8/3. Minus 1 1/2 becomes 3/2. Minus 4/5. Now, I need a common denominator for 3, 2, and 5. So what's the least common multiple of a 3, a 2, and a 5? Oh, I'm not 100% sure what's the least common one, but I know the first one that comes to my mind is going to be 30. So each of these is going to have a denominator of 30. All right, so 3 times 10 gives me 30, so 8 times 10 gives me 80. 2 times 15 gives me 30. 3 times 15 gives me 45. 5 times 6 gives me 30, so 4 times 6 gives me 24. Now this is basically just a subtraction problem. 80 minus 45 minus 24, all over denominator of 30. That should equal, well, 80 minus 45 is going to be 35, and 35 minus, let's make sure, this is going to be 35, and then it's 35 minus 24, which gives me 11. It's 11 out of 30. Part C, 1/5 plus a negative 4. Now, I've got a fraction with the whole number. Cannot work with an integer that way. I have to change that integer to a mixed number. So I need to borrow a whole from this, and I'm going to rewrite it real quick. This is going to be a negative 3, and since I'm working with a fraction of 1/5, it's going to be a negative 3 and 5/5 plus 1/5. Okay? So right now you have 5 quarters. You owe somebody 5 quarters, and you pay them back 1 quarter. How many do you still owe them? Right, 4. So that means this is going to be a -3 4/5. There you go. You're doing fantastic. I'm proud of you so far. All right, number 3, or slide 3. Rewrite the expression in standard form by collecting like terms. Ooh, this one looks like it's a fun one. We've got 4 terms. Now remember, a term is just an individual number or a variable separated by a order of an operation like subtraction, addition, multiplication, division. Since I've got this, and this all separated by a minus and plus sign, that means I have 4 terms. Okay, remember that for next. We might end up seeing that again here in a little bit. Now, I've got 4 denominators. Now, I'm looking at my 4 denominators, and I instantly know. I know what I'm looking at because I know 3, 4, 6, and 9 all have one common least common multiple. Anybody think they know what it is? 36. There you go. It's 36. So we're going to rewrite this with denominators of 36 across the place. 36n minus 36n plus 36n plus, let's go ahead and convert this real quick in our mind before we go too far in. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 29. So I'm going to keep that. That goes to that right there. We don't want to forget that. So 3 times 12 gives me 36. So 2 times 12 gives me 24. 4 times 9 gives me 36. 4 times 9 gives me 36. So 3 times 9 gives me 27. 6 times 6 gives me 36. So 6 times 1 gives me 6. All right. 4 times 9 gives me 36. 4 times 20 gives me 80. So now basically I have 80 plus 6 plus a plus 24 plus a -27 all over 36. Well, this is 86. 86 plus 24, let's back up a little bit. What's 6 plus 24? That's 30. 30 plus 80 is 110. So now I have 110 minus 27 over 36. 110 minus 27. Let's see. I'm going to go with 83. If I'm wrong, by all means, please correct it amongst yourselves. All right, so we get 83 over 36. Now, can that be simplified? No, but it can be converted back into a mixed number. 36 goes into 83 2 times. 2 times 36 is 72. 83 minus 72 gives me 11, so 11/36. All right, fantastic. You were doing an amazing job. All right, ladies and gentlemen, same thing. We've got another problem here. 5, 6, 10, and 5. All right, we've got 5. It's actually, hold on, let's see. It says follow the following exercises. Predict how many terms the resulting expression will have after collecting like terms. All right, well, first off, let's go ahead and count on how many terms we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So originally we're starting off with 5. Now, what terms can we combine? 2/5 G, G, and 3/10 G. So those 3 terms are going to combine into one term. All right, so that means we got one term here. Now, what about these 2 here, 1/6 and 4/5? You're right, those can combine as well, so that's another term. So in terms, we actually have 2 terms here. All right, now before we solve, why don't we go ahead and down here to B? All right, how many variables do I have? 2, H and I. Do I have any number here that does not have a variable? No, I do not. So how many terms am I going to end up with if I combine all the H's and all the I's? Great job. I'm going to have 2 terms. All right, now let's solve A real quick, okay? Let's bring all the G's together and bring all the non-G's together. All right, so we got 1 parentheses. And let's go ahead and figure out what our new denominators are before we get too far into this. 5, 6, 10, and 5. All right, 5, 6, 10, and 5. Let's go with, what do you think, 30? I think 30 is good. 30 is going to work best. So we're going to have 1 with a 30 minus another one with a 30 plus another one with a 30. All right. Now, is that a wise decision? Yeah, it's a good one to go with. So we're just going to go ahead and bear off with that and just work with that. So we got we had these two here, 5, 10, and G. All right, it's fine. We're going to work with it. Now, we're going to do plus. We're going to go ahead and say plus. All right, now look at 4/5 and a negative 1/6. All right, 30 is still the best one for us to use, so we're going to use that. Minus a 30 plus a negative over 30. So these are all our fractions, but now we need to find out what the new numerators are. All right, so we're going to start off with the 2/5. 5 times 6 is 30, so 6 times 2 is 12. G, that's just a 1. So what number do I need to put in the numerator to make this over 30 be a whole number? 30. So 30 over 30. Plus 3/10. 10 times 3 is 30. 3 times 3 is 9. All right, so now I got this big negative 30 over 30. Well, negative 30 plus 12 is going to be a negative 18. A negative 18 plus 9 should be a negative 9. So this should be a negative 9/30, but a negative 9/30 can reduce to a negative 3/10. So we got a simplified fraction here. Negative 3/10 G plus, all right, so we got our 6 and our 5 here. 6 times 5 gives me 30, so 1 times 5 is a negative 5. 5 times 6 is 30. 6 times 4 is a negative 24. If you simplify these two terms together, that's a negative 5 plus a negative 24. That would be a negative 29 over 30. All right, so that is our answer. It's a negative 3/10 G plus a negative 29/30. Now, we're going to pause the video here, give you an opportunity. You want you to find the answer for part B. Now, hopefully your teacher paused the video for about 3 minutes and you've had an opportunity to work out the problem. Well, we're going to go to the next slide and we are going to go ahead and figure out what the answer is because we've got the same terms over here. All right, so if you notice, here's our new bit of information. These are all our terms being grouped together. So this means you should be at the same spot I am. Now, we know that there are two terms, so that's why we combined everything into two terms. But now I've got an issue. I've got some things here that need to be combined. I got a 7 and a 2. The least common multiple there is going to be what? 14. I got a 3 and a 4 over here. What's the least common multiple? A 12. So let's go ahead and work on some quick conversions here. Well, I plus I is going to be 7i, so I'm not going to mess with that one right now. Minus, put a 14 on the bottom. 7 times 2 gives me 14. 3 times 2 gives me 6, so I got a negative 6/14 I. Plus, put a 14 on the bottom. 2 times 7 gives me 14. 7 times 1 gives me a 7. So now I got a 7/14 I. All right, that can combine. I've got a 7i minus, oh, is it going to be a minus? Let's see. 7/14 is bigger than 6/14, so it should be plus 1/14 I. Now let's go over here to the h's. All right, let's move the negative h here to the far side. So now I got a 1/3 h plus 1/4 h. Remember, our new denominators have to be 12. Okay, so here's our 12s. 3 times 4 gives me 12. So 4 times 1 gives me 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. So now we've got our next step. So now I've got a negative h, and I got 4/12 plus 3/12. Are the 4/12 being is the 4/12 plus the 3/12 going to give me a whole? No, it is not. So let me go ahead and convert this real quick. So I'm going to erase it, and since it's only a negative 1h, it's going to be a negative 12 over 12h. Because a negative 12 over 12 is going to equal a negative 1. Now, let's do the problem. Let's solve it. Negative 12 plus 4 is going to be a negative 8. A negative 8 plus 3 is going to give us a negative 5. So we should get a negative 5/12 h. All right. What are we going to get here? Correct. Our final answer should be 7 1/14 I plus a negative 5/12 h. All right, let's continue on. Write this expression in standard form by collecting like terms and justifying each step. Again, we've got fractions. Get used to this. Whole rational numbers are going to be coming from here on out. So let's go ahead and jump in. I can't do anything with mixed numbers. I have to convert every mixed number to an improper fraction. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to write it over here real quick. 5 1/3 becomes 16/3, minus 3 1/3 becomes 10/3, times 1/2 x minus 1 1/4. I'm sorry, minus 1/4. Now remember, this is the distributed property. So basically, we are going to be looking at this bit of information right here first. All right? So we've got 16/3. Now a negative 10/3 times a positive 1/2. All right? So plus a negative 10/3 times 1/2 x. All right? Minus a negative 10/3 times 1/4. All right? So now let's do the multiplication. Let's get everything squared away here. We got 16/3 plus, all right, a negative 10 times 1 gives me a negative 10. 3 times 2 gives me 6. So that's a negative 10/6x minus 10 times 1 gives me a 10. 3 times 4 gives me 12. So now I've got a negative 10/12. Well, what happens with a minus negative? Correct, it turns into a plus. So let's move over here real quick. So I've got 16/3 minus 10/6x plus 10/12. Well, can 10/12 be reduced? You're right, it can. So can 10/6. So I'm going to have 16/3 minus 10 and 6 both can be reduced by 2, so that's a 5/3 x, plus 10 and 12 can both be reduced by 2, so that's a 5/6. That makes combining this and this easier to do. So we're going to have a negative 5/3 x plus 16/3 plus 5/6. But we need to convert that 16/3. So let's rewrite that real quick. All right, we're going to have a denominator of 6. 3 times what gives me 6? 2. So 16 times 2 is going to be 32. All right, so I get a negative 5/3 x plus 37/6. And if your 10-ready test tells you to go ahead and write these as a mixed number, let's go ahead and practice that. We should get a negative 5/3 x plus 6 goes into 37 6 times with 1 left over, so it's 6 1/6. All right, fantastic job so far, guys. Fantastic job. I'm going to leave that up for about 60 seconds and give you an opportunity to write that down because I know it's a lot of information. Remember, when you're working on these problems, you have to double-check your work. Make sure your multiplication's solid. If you need a calculator, grab yourself a calculator. There's some sitting back in the back on the counter. All right? Do not let these opportunities pass you by. Get these answers correct. All right? You do not have many chances to ask questions right now because, well, there's a reason why we've got a video playing. There is a chance that I'm not here. All right, so let's move on. Slide 7. We only got 3 more slides, guys, so be patient. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you work on A and B together. This is going to be a pairs group, so I want y'all to work in your groups. What we're going to do is I'm going to pause the movie or pause the video, and hopefully the teacher that's in here is going to take a moment and pause this as well, so these answers do not just pop up out of the blue for you, okay? All right. All right, this is the answer for A. Take a few moments, take a look, and see where you might have made a mistake. All right, this is an opportunity for you to correct some things. You now see what the answer looks like, and you see what your answer is on your paper. So if these do not match, ask around. Ask somebody sitting next to you, how'd you get your answer? How is your answer different than mine? Talk to each other. Help each other out. Don't talk about what you did last night. Don't talk about what you're going to do tonight. Don't talk about if you're going to teen night. Talk about your math. All right? Again, we're going to... All right, there we go. There's your next answer for Part B. You should have gotten 1/12 F plus 2/9. Let's take a moment, let you give an opportunity to see whether or not you got the right answer. Like I said before, take a minute, talk to a partner, see whether or not they got the right answer. If they got the right answer, look and see what they did differently. Don't just sit there and be getting the wrong answer and not attempting to find a way why it was wrong. That's not acceptable. Now, I'm not saying get out of your seat and move around the room. So sit back down, stay in your seats, and work with your group. If you do not understand it or somebody in your group hasn't gotten it, raise your hand. I am sure somebody in this room is going to be able to help you out. All right, let's move on. All right, so number 8. This is one of those fun type of expressions. These are going to be around for a while, so get used to seeing these type of rational numbers. So they want us to rewrite this using the rules of rational numbers and write it in standard form. So we got x 20th plus 2x 5th plus plus x plus 1 over 2 plus 3x minus 1 over 10. What is the least common multiple of 20, 5, 2, and 10? Correct. It's 20. So this is actually not going to be that bad. So I'm going to give myself some room here because this is going to be a long problem. All right? So we got a 20 there plus a 20 here plus a 20 here plus a 20 here. Now, what do we normally do to the numerator to make sure it balances out? If we change the denominator, what do we have to do to the numerator? We have to change it as well. So what are we going to be multiplying this x by? Right, nothing, because we already have 20. So this is just going to be an x. 5 times what gives me 20? 4. So this is going to be 4 times 2x. Plus, what times what gives me 20? 2. 2 times 10, 10. So this is going to be 10 times x plus 1. 10 times what gives me 20? 2. So this is going to be 2 times 3x minus 1. Now, we're going to have one giant numerator with a simple denominator. So we got x plus, what's 4 times 2x? 8x. Plus, what's 10 times x? 10x. Plus 10 times 1? 10. Plus, what's 2 times 3x? 6x. What's 2 times a negative 1? A negative 2. So now it's combining like terms, which is next. So we need to find out how many x's we've got. So let's go back and let's circle all of our x's. Here's an x, here's an x, here's an x, and here's an x. So now we know what all of our x's look like. So what's x plus 8x? No, it's not 8x. It's 9x. Remember, there's a 1 right here. So it's 1x plus 8x, which gives you 9x. 9x plus 10x is 19x. 19x plus 6x gives you how many? 25 x's. Now I've got this 10 and this 2 left to go. What's 10 minus 2? 8. Great job. And it's going to all be over denominator of 20. So that is your answer. All right, take a moment. Take a look and see how it was done. These rules do not change. They're going to be the same year by year by year. Just because the problems get more complex doesn't mean the procedures are not as simple as they were in day 1. Don't be sitting here saying, I don't know how to do it. Don't be sitting here saying, I can't do it. Remember what we talked about yesterday. Cannot be a word in your vocabulary if you want to be successful. It has to be I can, or I'm going to try, or I'm willing to attempt. Saying I can't is admitting defeat, and we are not going to admit defeat. It's not accepted. All right, let's move on to number 9. All right, 2x minus 11 over 4 minus 3 times x minus 2 over 10. I want you to do this one on your own. So I want your teacher to give you about 5 minutes to work the problem. Once 5 minutes is up, you're going to find out what your homework is for the weekend. Yes, it's homework for the weekend. Do not give me the moans and groans and upsets. You didn't have homework for the last 2 days, so now you got homework. Just remember, it's not going to be as bad as it could be, because if you look in your problem set, you could have had all those problems. You don't have all of them, so relax. So, like I said, please pause the video. All right, this should be the answer you've gotten, 4x minus 43 over 20. But I want to show you another thing that you can do, because it's going to be imperative that you understand this. All right. So this denominator, okay, applies to both the 4x and the 23. So I can actually rewrite this as 4x over 20 minus 43/20. And that can reduce. Becomes 1/5 x minus 2 3/20. Now I know that's a big jump. I know. I'm sorry. We're still working on this video, trying to make some flow to it. And if it threw you off, I apologize. All right. We're going to work on this together. We're going to get there together. All right. That is your work. That is all you had to do in class today. If you have questions, you can always send Mr. Hale an email at halew@scsk12.org. I'll write that email on the next slide for you. By the way, here's your homework. You're going to have number 1, and you're going to do letters A, C, E. For number 2, you're going to do A, C, E. For number 3, I want you to do A, D, G, J, M, P, S. Remember, that is your homework tonight. Now, my email is halew@scsk12.org. All right. Hopefully you got all your work done. Hopefully you're going to be able to have your homework, and hopefully tomorrow I will be in class if I was absent. If I wasn't absent, then this was a great little trial run, and I look forward to seeing how we can do this some more. All right. Y'all have a good day. I'll see you later.